Shushan, Vitsumu alai, fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night and day. Ve'al tochlu, ve'al tishtu, sheloshet yamim laila vayom. Gamani v'na'arotai atzum ken. I and my girls will similarly fast. And then I will go to the king. And if I perish, I perish. So she takes now control. And the word ken, ani v'na'arotai atzum ken. What is 3 days in terms of hours? 24 hours times 3 is what? Okay. So she says, atzum ken. We will fast ken. What's the gematria? Chaf nun, 30 and 20. Excuse me, 30 and 20 and 50, 70. I'm going to fast 70 hours. Then I'm going to eat. And I'm going to bathe. And I'm going to anoint. And they're going to massage me. 3 days. 3 days. And the Midrash puts into words the prayers that she was praying during those 3 days. Begging, pleading to Hashem for her people. At the end of 3 days, she gets dressed. The verse says, Vatilbash Esther Malchut. The Gemara says, it should say, Vatilbash Esther Bigdei Malchut. The difference is that it says that she dressed up in Malchut, in royalty. Whereas it should have said she dressed up in royal clothes. The Gemara learns from here that she got Malchut, Nivu'ah, Ruach HaKodesh came upon her. She had bathed, she had eaten, she is anointed. And now as she's getting dressed in her physical dress, all of a sudden she feels the Shekhinah come down on her. Wow, beautiful. It's almost 72 hours. I'm going to go in there at the moment of 72, at the maximum moment of the fast, and ask Hashem for His chesed. Gematria chesed, 72. So as she's walking now with the 2 girls, one on each side, to hold her up. She's walking. She gets to a place called Chatzer Beit HaMelech Penima. It says, the 3rd day came, and Esther dressed up in Malchut. He then stood in the inner court of the king's palace, opposite the throne room. It says, V'ta'amod b'chatzar Beit HaMelech HaPeninit nochach Beit HaMelech. Again, the inner court of the king's palace, opposite the throne room. The Talmud says, when she got to the house of carved statues, to the Beit HaSlamim, what was just called in the Megillah, the Chatzer Beit HaMelech, Chatzar Beit HaMelech HaPeninit, the inner court of the king's palace, the Gemara calls it the house of carved statues. Why? Because there was these huge statues of wood of these Persian kings who all deified themselves on both sides as she walked in, towering above her like a huge, very high ceiling with these conical beards of the Persians, and very menacingly looking down on her. And all of a sudden she said, she felt the Shekhinah departed from her, the Shekhinah that came down on her just a few minutes ago, and she cried out, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani? My Hashem, my God, why have you forsaken me? So, remember what we said before about those negative voices? Those statues represented the different parts of Esther saying to her, in so much hatred in their voices, you'll never succeed, you'll die, your face has fooled you. Now you see it was all a big hoax. Let your God save you now. As long as we're with you, you're not going anywhere. She is being attacked. Every force in the world seemed to come against her as she was about to enter the king's throne room. Esther represents the soul, the neshama, trapped in the body, in the personality. Her experience in the Beit HaSlamim, in the house of carved statues, waiting, just about to enter into the king's, just as she's about to enter, that's when it all happens. That's when they all come at you and try and stop you. Just when you're about to grow, just when you're about to do it. This is exactly what happens to each one of us, and all of us together, when we're about to go to the next level, when we're about to encounter Hashem, is we get stuck, we get pulled back. So what Rabbi Nachman is talking about here is the way to overcome that. And it's, one of the important things is to know that Hashem is beyond anything we know. A lot of us were taught, especially if you were religious, you grew up religious, that Hashem is after you. He's looking to get you. You make one mistake, He's going to punish you. And the teachers all told that to them, to you, and other messages came in that Hashem is a punishing God. This is a real tragedy, that that's what we were stooped with. Because then our concept of God is exactly that. Exactly what that teacher did or said to us, exactly what our daddy or our mommy did to us that hurt us. And so some people can't handle that and they leave it altogether, right? Some people stayed with it, but they're suffering because they really believe that on Yom Kippur Hashem is about to kill you, right? And that you're bad and you're no good. And that the tshuva on Yom Kippur is coming out of such a deep guilt for how bad I am. And nothing of this is true. Every single word I've just said is a false thing that's put into people's minds. So something really weird happened here. The scare tactics. It's nothing to do with Hashem. Hashem will never, ever, ever use anything against you that you did wrong. He'll always try and show you how you can come back. That's why Rabbi Nachman is so important. Because he got that. He got that from the Baal Shem Tov, his grandfather. He got it from the Ari. He got it from the true teachings of Torah, which is that Hashem's love is so great, it's beyond any imagination. So one of the first things we have to do when we deal with Hashem is to free Him from any false concepts that we have about Him. That the whole reason that He created the whole world, and the way that He created it, the reason He created it, is out of incredible love. That's the context within which the whole thing is taking place. And also the concept that that's what I wanted to say, is that He is not limited by what we think about Him. And so our job now, I call it freeing God. The paradox of God's transcendence. The more I free Him, the closer He is to me, the closer I can feel. Because I free Him from any of the ideas that poison me, intoxify me, and have stopped me from really believing in Him. Well, of course, there's a joke that says, the guy says, do you believe in God? He says, no. How can a God do that and a God do that? He says, the truth is I don't believe in the God that you don't believe in also. That kind of God, who can believe in Him? Anybody be crazy. But our concept of God is so exalted, so beautiful. It's so great. And it's there in our Torah. But it has to be taught the right way. And so we have to kind of look inside of ourselves. Is there something in me that still thinks that God is out to get me? The peeping Tom God? The one who's trying to trip me up? And I really want you to ask yourself this. And really know that if you want to make a real change in your life, you must change your concept of God. It's intrinsic to who we are. We can't just become different and still hold the same ideas about Hashem.